Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. So basically what I'm doing right here is a 24th century enlisted Starfleet ranks. The rank insignias, basically. Now, before I go any further, this is largely something I kind of made up by myself. Um, I've taken various influence from the United States Navy, from various aspects of Star Trek. But this is basically just coming out of my own head. Not really saying any of this is canon, not really saying any of this is true or that you should take it as true, yada yada yada. I'm just saying this is kind of something I came up on my own and that I want to share with y'all because I think it's just kind of fun to just sort of come up with things like this. So, if you're at all familiar with my channel here, this is not something I do very often. This is something I kind of upload once in a while, just kind of for fun, just kind of a side hobby that I do. But yeah, anyway, let's just get right into it. So I'm just going to start right here. This is the very first enlisted rank that I've come up with, crewman recruit. Kind of a little blurry there, but I guess got to deal with it. Um, Crewman recruit. This is the very first rank that you'll probably get when you enter Starfleet. You're going to be holding this rank when you first enter. I assume they have a basic training at some point, usually initially when you first join, kind of just like any enlisted organization for any modern day military. But from here, it kind of goes up. Then there's crewman apprentice. You notice it's pretty simple, the insignia. It's just a gray square with two black stripes in it. The first one was obviously one black stripe. I'm not really going too heavily or too heavy on detail with these. Um, I don't know if you've ever noticed, and I'll talk about this more later, but if you've seen Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Chief O'Brien doesn't have officer rank insignia on his collar. He's got uh, some kind of enlisted rank insignia, which is largely where I've gotten this inspiration from. And you might kind of see it if you're familiar with his insignia, you might kind of see inspiration from that here. But anyway, moving on, you got crewman apprentice. You probably get this rank after you accomplish your time in basic training, and then you move on to various other training depending on what your job in Starfleet is going to be. And it could take anywhere from 6 months to a year to get that training completed. At which point you're finally sent out to the fleet. You'd probably be a crewman, and again, pretty basic, just three stripes on a gray square, and then we move on to midshipman. And now I got the idea of a midshipman. To be honest, I can't say I really know what a midshipman is, but I have heard this rank be expressed within Star Trek, not TNG, but I've heard this rank be spoken about in the original Star Trek, but not the original show. It was the Star Trek Six. It was that guy with the funny, weird, ugly feet. He was midshipman something or other. I forget his name. But he was a midshipman, so I kind of figured why not keep that here. I don't know necessarily what a midshipman is. The United States Navy doesn't have a midshipman. I don't think the Royal Navy has a midshipman. I didn't really look at any other rank to determine, or excuse me, any other naval organization to see who has a midshipman. So I don't really have any real world basis for this. But in my research, I did discover that a midshipman was kind of what somebody would be called on old style navies. Um, it was kind of an in between guy, if I'm not mistaken. I could be horribly wrong. It's been a while since I've done this research, but either way, there we have it. That's a midshipman. So we're going to just scroll back to the beginning. We're going to scroll down a little bit. Let me adjust this to a better spot. So we're moving up here now that it's changing a little bit. We still have a gray background, but we have four stripes But now they're coming two on each side with a circle in the middle. And this is a Master Crewman third class. I kind of played around a little bit with the names of the ranks here. You'll know, if you've seen any of my other videos, you'll notice I tend to do that. I kind of like to make up ranks, things like that. But anyway, we've got the Master Crewman third class. It just kind of basically you got your crewman who is actually experienced. Um, and then this moves up Master Crewman second class. You'll notice that instead of just one circle in the middle, there's now two. And then, of course, I bet you guessed, Master Crewman First Class has three circles in the middle, and I believe that's all for this row. And then we're going to move down. I don't think that's center quite. Okay, so now things get a little bit more interesting. The background has changed, the corners are curved, and this is where I take a lot of inspiration from Chief O'Brien's rank insignia from Deep Space Nine. Because again, he wasn't an officer; he was an enlisted. Which his career is interesting because if you watch him in the Next Generation, he was an officer. He held the rank of a lieutenant. But when he went to Deep Space Nine as the chief of operations, he held an enlisted rank, which I think is pretty interesting. He essentially, I guess you could say, demoted himself, but he didn't necessarily get the lowest rank, but he's not an officer anymore. But anyway, I'm kind of digressing. So we got here our petty officer third class, and notice it's not a chief petty officer, it's just a petty officer, and it's one. I think this is called a chevron. It's not necessarily a line, it's like a squared line. I think that's a chevron. I could be wrong, but yeah, we got a chevron there, and then of course petty officer second class, we got two chevrons, and then petty officer first class, we've got our three, or our third chevron. And then I think that's it for this row. Yep, we move on. Now this is, I believe, the ranks that our boy Chief O'Brien held. Let me center this better. And we've got here Chief Petty Officer, third class. And we've still got our blue background, our curved corners, and we've got a circle over here with, of course, three chevrons. And then this rank right here, I believe, is the rank that Chief O'Brien held. I could be wrong, and I could be misrepresenting it. I probably am misrepresenting it in some way, shape, or form. But if memory served, and I think when I made this diagram, this demonstration here, I did look up his rank insignia. But you notice there's two circles. I remember three chevrons or something similar to that, but he also had two circles. I think they were both on the bottom. In this representation, I have two circles, one on top, one on bottom. I'm not sure why I did that. I guess I just wanted to switch it up a bit. But yeah, moving on, that was Chief Petty Officer third class. And of course, you probably caught on by now. We've got a third circle with three chevrons, and we have Chief Petty Officer First Class. And that's not the end of it. I got pretty creative with this one. Yeah, that's the end for that row. I got pretty creative here. I was just kind of playing around, having fun with it, and I moved on with, just center that slightly better, Master Chief Petty Officer Third Class. Now this might actually be the rank that Chief O'Brien held. He might have been a Master Chief. I don't know. I didn't double check before I made this video. I made this chart like a year ago, and I intended to. There was somebody in the comments actually suggested this to make a video like this, and I had already made it, and then I was going to post it, and I just never did because again, this is just kind of a side hobby that I do. But yeah, anyway, so Master Chief Petty Officer Third Class, and then of course Master Chief Petty Officer Second Class. We got the two circles, and I didn't point out before the difference in this one. You've got the three chevrons, but you've also got a circle, a half circle, a curve line here, if you will. Not sure what you call that. maybe it's also a chevron. I have no idea. But anyway, moving on. Master Chief Petty Officer First Class, and it's pretty self-explanatory. Uh, so I thought this is the row where I got pretty creative. I it's not. I believe this next row is when I really change things up. I try not to get too crazy, but again, I came up with this concept of an explorer chief. Now, before I go any further, I have no idea what an explorer chief is. I just kind of went with the idea that Starfleet is an organization meant to explore space. It's kind of like a mix between NASA and I guess a navy, a militarized navy. It's like if NASA had a rank structure. It doesn't, as far as I know, but if it did, I think that's where you kind of get something like Starfleet. So then I kind of came up with this concept. You know, they're probably not going to have traditional Navy ranks like what you see in the U.S. Navy. They're probably going to have something different because, again, it's an exploration organization, which is kind of hard rolling off the tongue. But so anyway, I came up with this explorer chief, and it's basically, you know, same idea, but instead of a blue background, it's a red background, and I added an additional curved line behind the one that was already there, and I got rid of the circles, and I can't remember what I did. Okay, and here we have a senior explorer chief. It's just a third circle is, or a third half circle is added. And then moving on. Well, okay, I wasn't expecting this. It's a master explorer chief. It's just a big circle in the middle. So instead of two little circles on the right side of the insignia, we got just a big circle in the middle with a little red circle inside that. So that's where we're there, or that's where we're at right there. And moving on, moving on. That was the end of this row, right? Yeah, it must be. Moving on, we're going back to Explorer Chief, and I do believe I have more to show. Perhaps I did not. I thought I did. Oh, yeah, it's right here. Okay. So I guess what we have right here, let me center this a bit better, is the Master Explorer Chief of Starfleet. So there we go. It's basically the rank we have up here. The Senior Explorer Chief, but with instead of the previous rank below this one with the circle in the middle, it's the Starfleet insignia. So I definitely got this concept from the United States military, because in the United States military, the very tippy top enlisted rank is like, I think in the U.S. Navy, it's like Master Chief of the U.S. Navy or something like that. I probably botched that. If so, I apologize. But there's only one person who holds this rank in the United States military that I believe is a fact as far as I know, and so that person is called the so and so of, in the United States Navy, it's the so and so of the Navy. Well, in Starfleet, it's the Master Explorer Chief of Starfleet. So yeah, that's basically where we are at there. Let me try and center this a little better. I hope that's visible to some degree. Yeah, so that's basically the enlisted ranks that I came up with. It's pretty fun to make. I really enjoyed this. I always like coming up with interesting variations on relatively common concepts that you might be used to or would expect. Again, for this, for me, was the explorer ranks. Again, I don't know if Starfleet has any of these. I know either Master Chief or something similar, right here, is definitely somewhere in Starfleet, because we have Chief O'Brien, holds a rank very similar to this. I don't remember, I cannot remember which one it is. I would imagine since he's a graduate of Starfleet Academy, he's pretty high up there. So I would imagine You know, he's a Master Chief Petty Officer, but I don't think that's what his rank is. I have no idea what his rank is. Anyway, I'm gonna stop ranting there. We're just gonna kind of end the video because I could talk about stuff like this forever and ever without end. So yeah, that's basically where we're at. We got 24th century Starfleet enlisted ranks. Again, these are not officer ranks. You don't have to go to an academy for 4 years. These are enlisted ranks. You just sign up, get your training. It might take 6 months, a year to do that, and then boom, you're out in space. But yeah, that's where we're at, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your viewership, and hopefully, we'll see you again pretty soon. Actually, at some point during this, either after this or before this, I'm going to upload a new 24th century officer rank enlisted uh, sheet, simply because there were some things that I adjusted on it and changed about it. So I hope you'll check that out if you have the chance or feel inclined to. It should be up here pretty soon. But yeah, with that, we're going to go ahead and call it. Thanks again. Love you guys. We'll see you soon.